Welcome back to Saddle Rants and Reflections. Today it's Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to talk about my best buddy over there, Bailey. Bailey and I have been trail buddies for the last 2.5 years, and I just wanted to go into a little story about how Bailey and I got together. And it starts back during COVID. And we had a client, and she had an old dog that she had to put down, and she wanted to replace it. And she decided that she was going to do a really big-hearted, good thing. And Bailey, here, come on. How you guys doing today? It's a beautiful day.
How are you?
So she decided that her and her daughter were going to go down to the local animal shelter, and they were going to pick out the dog, regardless of what it was, and bring it home and rescue it. And so when they got there, they were directed towards Bailey, the big and beautiful German Shepherd who had been at the pound for over a year, and before that he'd been in Long Beach at another pound, and they just simply couldn't find a home for him. He'd been returned, and so they felt compassion for this sweetheart over here, and so they brought him home. And they didn't have him but a night, and they left to go do something, and they left him with the husband. And so when the husband went to let him in the backyard, out in the backyard, to play, as their herd of dogs were streaming by, he realized that the gate was open. And so, being worried about this dog's recall and ability to get him back if they were to let him loose, he reached down in a panic and grabbed hold of this dog's collar to try and stop him. And Bailey turned around and grabbed hold of this man's hand with his big old maw. And that was the beginning of a very short relationship. By the time our clients got back to the house, the husband was like, that dog needs to leave and be returned to where you got him as soon as they opened their doors. And we had no idea that this had all shaken out. And but the next day when he got to the barn, our client was in tears because she'd had to return this poor dog Bailey back to the pound, and she was uncertain of his fate at this point because he'd been returned a couple times and he'd bit somebody. And we felt a deep sense of compassion. I mean, we'd seen pictures of this guy on Facebook, and that's about all we knew of him, but he was beautiful. And I'd grown up with German Shepherds when I was a kid. I had a real sweetheart named Gabriella. And so anyways, we start trying to move heaven and earth to get this dog and get him. And we were told under no certain circumstances that we were going to be able to adopt this dog, and that he was in quarantine and he had to be in quarantine for a certain number of days, and that the only way that he could be adopted out would be if a animal like a German Shepherd rescue were to come and collect him, who they'd worked with. So we tried to go that route. We tried to talk to an animal, a German Shepherd rescue that just happened to live down the street from our clients, and they said, "Oh yeah, well, we can do it for you, but it's a fee, and we have to come and inspect your house and give you a report card, and see if you're suitable parents and all of this nonsense." And I was like, you know what, screw that. And I just think it's ridiculous. And so, fortunately for us, the horse community is pretty big, and we happen to know a guy who was a horse person who also worked in animal control. So we called him and we were like, hey, there's this dog. And he got returned, and we told him the whole story. And so he vouched for us. He put us in touch with the right person, and we went and set up an appointment to see this dog. And so we go down to the animal shelter in the valley, and I buzzed the door, and the squawk box intercom says, hello, what do you need? And they're like, oh yeah, we're here to see Bailey, the German Shepherd. And they're like, oh, okay. Do you have your vaccination card? And I'm like, vaccination card? And it's just during the COVID nonsense, if you all remember. And I'm like, no, I don't have a vaccination card. I'm just here to see a dog, And they're like, well, we can't let you in here to see the dog unless you got a vaccination card. And I was like, well, can you bring the dog out to see me? I mean, let's take him out here. And she's like, oh, that's a good idea. And so anyway, we're waiting, and 10 minutes goes by, and then it's getting closer to 15, and we're staring at each other, and it's like, what is going on here? And then this little face shows up in the crack in the door, and she's like, we can't get him out of the kennel. He's growling at us. We're afraid to get bit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, well, do you want to come see him? And just like that, all of a sudden, it didn't matter anymore whether I had a vaccination card or not. And they allowed us to come in. And so we got ushered through all the barking dogs and the, everybody bouncing off the wall and the loud barks and everything else. And she leads us to this kennel. And here's Bailey. And he comes to the front of the kennel, and he just literally tries to melt through the chain link to get to us. And like she warned us, hey, don't stick your fingers through the kennel, blah, 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 but I couldn't help myself. And when he leaned up against the kennel like that, I just had to stroke him and through the fence. And I said, hey, can you bring him out? And so they got somebody that was willing to go in there and snare him. And so they took him outside, and we put him in one of the pens that they do use as a run. And that's where we met Bailey for the first time. And he was an orangutan, and he was into everything, and he was squeaking toys and running around with 3 balls in his mouth, and he'd drop them, and he'd put one in your lap, and you'd go to grab it, and you'd snatch it before you could grab it, and then he'd squeak it at your face. And I was just total intensity. And my girlfriend was looking at me with this shocked look on her face and eyes the size of golf balls, and she's like, are you sure? Do you think we can handle this dog? And I'm like, yeah. And I was instantly just in love with him. And I don't know what to say. So we made the decision, and after weighing all of the work that it would entail, and so we made made plans to come back and get him after I got back from being offshore on the boat, and I'd have time to give him my undivided attention. And that was that. And so anyways, I will stop it right there, and then I will pick up where I left off the next time I post a video, and it'll be the day that I picked up Bailey from the pound. Anyways, have a good Sunday, and have a blessed day, and enjoy the weather.